What do you know today that you did not know 5 or 10 years ago? Exactly. Jake looks and thinks, what was 10 years ago? Exactly. So what is it, depending on your age, like what did you not know a year ago, or for some, yesterday, if you have your short-term memory? That is a good question to reflect on because it points out where and how we develop, where we keep growing, where we're not done. Because some people become elders by learning, by acquiring wisdom, by expanding their understanding, and some people only grow old without becoming wise. As the saying would go, too old too fast, too smart too late, or something like that. Now, the other and even more challenging question would be about what were you really wrong when you look back? Is there one thing, or there are a couple of things that say, ooh, I was really wrong about that? It's very hard to look at that. And or the third thing, what is a proverb? What is a proverb or a meaning or a saying from your mom or your dad or your grandparents that rings true today? I hear sometimes people say, well, my mom used to say, and there is some wisdom in that that applies to today. Or I hear from other people say, oh, my granddad used to say, and that's a wisdom, that's an understanding that applies to right here and right now to my situation. So when I think of my dad, what he used to say and what applies here, yeah, there is some wisdom from a previous generation. And thus one of my mentors early on said, you know what, Dietmar? It's a smart thing or a wise thing that you always keep connected to a previous generation, the people who are older than you are. People have friends from people who are older than you are, and also keep connected to people who are younger than you are, because you can learn from both. You have your perspective, your viewpoint, your generation, but always keep broader, include the others too, because you can learn from them. When it comes to wisdom, I think sometimes it's like climbing a mountain. The higher you climb, the older you get, the wiser you get, the broader your perspective is. It's like the horizon widens as you grow wise and grow old. The opposite of that is you're digging yourself a hole, and the perspective narrows and narrows, and you get even narrower. Or, a saying, you know it, you paint yourself in a corner. That's where you're stuck. That was new to my brother. So we talked on the phone and whatever, and I said, well, you painted yourself in a corner. Oh, I haven't heard that before. So that was, yeah, I can see that very clearly. No way out. And the first thing you can do when you're digging your own hole, well, stop digging. So step back, take a look, get a little bit of perspective. Now, our Bible is so full of what the overall umbrella is called as wisdom literature. There is a book of Proverbs, and many of our common proverbs that have been passed on from generation to generation, some of that wisdom comes right from the book of Proverbs. There is also a small book of Wisdom of Solomon, Why? Well, we just heard the scripture. There was a wisdom in King Solomon that found reflection in these books, in that book. We also know Ecclesiastes is part of that wisdom literature. And many people choose for their funerals or the funerals of their loved ones this: there is a time for everything under heaven, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to throw rocks, a time to gather them up. There is a time. Can you see the perspective there? Don't get too caught up in one time, in one activity, but there are times, and a lot of wisdom is about timing. You may have the greatest ideas, the best thing to change the world, but timing matters too. So where and how does all of that come together? And that is the wisdom literature in the Bible, or what the Proverbs we talked about, or the common sense. There is something about book smart that just misses common sense. Sometimes I hear, well, graduate so-and-so came into the company and was to supervise workers. Well, there's something you do not learn in college. There's something about experience, about down to earth, something of knowing with your heart, knowing with a sense of understanding, where you don't look down on others. The interesting thing, and so hard to keep this in mind, is that each and every one of us has a blind spot. You have a blind spot. I have a blind spot. Now, there are tricky ways to find that out. Close your eyes and you can look it up, and whenever you look straight and you don't see the thumb anymore, it's in the blind spot. Now, it's blind because you don't see it. Now, I also have blind spots that are not literal, practical in my eyes, but there are other blind spots. And if you ever want to find out about your blind spots, ask someone who is really close to you, someone who knows you well, who can tell you about your personality, about some things you do not know about yourself. And I bet there are some things. There are some things there that people around you know about you that you're not aware of. That's one of the things why Sigrid, sometimes to my chagrin and my frustration, holds up the mirror. One of the things I love to do is taking shortcuts. Well, not every shortcut is worth taking, my friends. I've been there. I've done that. And there are other aspects she holds up to me where she thinks, yeah, I think there is something to that. I had not seen that so clearly. I wasn't so aware of that. One of the hardest things to say is, I was wrong. I was wrong. I was dead wrong about that. It's easier for me to say, well, I don't know. And what I want to encourage you in terms of wisdom and what wisdom is about is to step a little bit back and get more friendly with that part in you that does not know and that is willing and curious to look at a different side, at a different perspective. Now, it's a wisdom to know that every person you meet, every person with whom you talk, even the ones you don't talk with for whatever reason, they have an understanding. They know something you do not know. Every person. So if you go into a conversation with a person with the attitude, this person knows something I do not know. You see the difference? Going into a conversation and thinking, I'm right, and my job is to convince this person that that person is wrong. See the difference? Yeah. Another aspect of being wise or smart or having a broader understanding is that you can hold or understand different positions at the same time. Again, one of my mentors pointed that out. Part of being more mature is you understand this point of view and you can share it and reflect it and say it. Yes, did I hear you right? Is that where you stand? Yes, I think I understand. If I don't, help me understand more. So that's one point of view. And then you may have a different point of view, a different understanding, and you can see both sides. There is something to looking at things from different perspectives. Now, yeah, I don't know, should I go to this point or not? Is time up? Not quite yet. King Solomon, when he asked for wisdom, it is the combination of the head and the heart. Some people may be incredibly logic and smart, but there seemed to be something of compassion or whatever missing. You can see some people, they're dead cold. They're just going for it, no matter whatever falls to the side for that. And other people are so wrapped up in their emotions and so swallowed up by their feelings and overwhelmed and whatever, that they don't have the clarity of mind, this clear, this objective, this analytic perspective. The story about King Solomon tells me we need both. When he's asking for wisdom, the literal sense, as it says in Hebrew, means a listening heart, a discerning heart. Brains is not enough. You need the heart too. And when he has to judge, to whom does this baby belong? There were two prostitutes. Each one of them had a baby. It was dark. One of the babies died. The one whose baby died took the baby of the other mother. And in the morning they were fighting. No, that's my baby. No, that's my baby. No. And they were torn apart and were brought to King Solomon. Well, he mulled over, and there was just no way to solve this because each one of the women claimed, it's my baby. So King Solomon said, bring a sword and we'll cut the baby in two. Each one of you gets half of it. One woman said, let's do it. Yeah. The other one said, please don't, let the other one have it. Well, the real mother would never ever want to hurt her baby, even if she would not be able to keep it. She'd rather give it up. That is heart wisdom. So the one who said, don't hurt it, that's the real mother, because it's the compassionate, the caring heart. Francis of Assisi said, "Preach all the time, and only if you need, use words." And that's the wisdom of our Matthew scripture, just like this short, brief poem says. I'd rather see a sermon than hear one any day. I'd rather one should walk with me than merely tell the way. The eye's a better pupil and more willing than the ear. Fine counsel is confusing, but example is always clear. What do you know today that you did not know a while ago? What wisdom, what proverb is important to you right now, speaking to you? Where and how do you need to step back a little bit to gain perspective? I think that's a little bit what wisdom is about. Let us not stick too much to our point of view, but let us remain open to the learning, to the insight, to the wisdom that is right there for us to discover.